My name is Mei-Shan. I won't say which part of Hong Kong I live in. It doesn't matter anymore. After my father died, everything changed. He was my anchor, my last sense of safety in this world. When I lost him, it was like the floor vanished beneath my feet. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I started crying at random times, sometimes even at work. It didn't feel real at first, like I was stuck between two realities, one where he was alive, and one where I was left behind. My mother and younger brother moved in together. I stayed in the apartment alone. It wasn't really a choice. I just couldn't face the noise of other people. But silence can be worse than pain. After sunset, that apartment felt like it was breathing. The lights dimmed too fast. The shadows clung to the walls. I kept the TV on for background noise, but I never watched it. I couldn't concentrate. Eventually, I saw a psychologist. I told her I couldn't stop thinking about my father. I told her about the weight in my chest, about how everything felt wrong. She gave me pills, pale blue, said it was grief, said time would help. But this wasn't something time could fix, because only I know what's really going on in my heart. It was summer, the kind of Hong Kong summer that makes you feel like you're drowning even when you're not moving. The day had been hot, suffocating. But that night, the sky changed suddenly. The clouds turned dark. Then came the rain. Violent, thick, as if the sky had snapped. Poured so hard it was difficult to breathe under it. That's the night my friend messaged me. Meet at Starbucks? The one near the MRT station, our usual spot. I hesitated. I hadn't left the apartment all day. I was tired, and my head was full of static. But I said yes. I needed to feel like I was still part of the world. I wore my father's jacket, too big on me, but warm. The rain soaked the edges of my jeans and sleeves as I walked. The city looked different through the storm. The streets reflected neon signs like blood in water. The buildings seemed taller, unfamiliar. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting by the window where you could see the traffic lights blink through the fog and glass. She waved at me, smiled. Everything seemed normal. I ordered a black coffee. No sugar, no cream, just bitter. I didn't want comfort. I wanted something to match the taste in my mouth. We talked about work, about nothing important. She laughed once or twice. I smiled, nodded, tried to act normal. But the truth is, I barely heard anything she said. My head was pounding. The back of my skull felt tight, like it was being squeezed. My arms felt cold, even inside the cafe. And then I picked up the cup. The moment I took the first sip, something shifted. Not in the coffee, but in me. It was like swallowing something electric. My tongue went numb. My vision blurred, just for a second. My heart slowed down, and my skin felt like paper, thin and sensitive. Then came the whisper. Not from her. Not from the cafe. Not from anywhere I could explain. It was right beside my ear, low, raspy, wet, as if someone had leaned in too close and whispered in a language I'd never heard before. I froze. I looked behind me. Nothing. No one was there. I forced myself to laugh and told my friend I was just tired. She didn't ask questions. She finished her drink and called a taxi. I didn't go home. I walked. The rain had stopped, but everything was still wet. The streets shimmered under the streetlights. I don't know why I kept walking. Maybe I was trying to shake off the feeling. Maybe I just didn't want to be alone in my apartment. But the deeper I walked, the worse it got. The alleys seemed longer. The city felt like it was stretching. The wind howled between buildings like it was crying. I heard my name whispered again. Mei-Shan. From corners I refused to look into. And then I saw her. She stood under a flickering street lamp at an intersection. A woman, thin, pale, long black hair clinging to her soaked skin. Her face was turned away. Something about her made my chest tighten. Then she turned around slowly and looked straight at me. Her face was smooth, too perfect. Her eyes wide and glassy. Her lips didn't move when she spoke. "Excuse me, can you help me? I'm looking for this address." She held out a piece of paper, damp, folded. I didn't take it. Everything in me screamed, "Don't." She stepped closer. The smell hit me, like incense and rotting flowers. Something ancient, something wrong. I muttered sorry and walked away fast. I didn't look back. I didn't run, but I wanted to. That was the night it began. The cursed coffee, the whispers, the woman, and the moment I realized this wasn't depression. This was something else, something old, something that had found its way inside me. I tried to forget what happened that night. I told myself it was just a panic attack, maybe lack of sleep, maybe the stress of living in this city, where every day feels like survival. Rent in Hong Kong is hell. Salaries don't match the pressure. People wear smiles like masks, but everyone's crumbling inside. I was no different. That morning, after the Starbucks incident, I went to work, or at least I tried to, but my workplace was gone. Not just closed, erased. The office I had entered every weekday for the last 6 years was no longer there. Same address, same street, but the windows were boarded up. The sign above the door was faded. Everything was covered in a thick layer of dust, like no one had been inside for years. I walked around the block 3 times in disbelief. Nothing made sense. My phone had no signal. I couldn't reach anyone. When it finally restarted, there were no recent calls, no texts, no record of the number I had tried to dial. I stood there, shaking, staring at the building that didn't exist anymore. I told myself to breathe, to calm down, to see my therapist. That's what she would say. So I went. But when I arrived at the building where her clinic had always been, I found nothing but a blank metal door. No nameplate, no buzzer, just silence. I knocked. No answer. I pressed my ear against it, desperate, and heard whispering, my name, again and again, in a voice too familiar. It was my own voice, but slower, distorted, wrong. I stumbled backward, heart racing, and ran. The world outside looked normal, but it didn't feel normal. The air was too heavy. People moved like they weren't really alive. Blank stares, frozen faces. One woman smiled at me, wide, unblinking, for far too long. I thought I was going mad. That night I had another dream, but this one was different. I wasn't asleep. Couldn't have been. Felt too real. I woke up in my bed, but the room was wrong. The walls were damp. The floor was stained, dark, red, and sticky. I sat up slowly. She was there again. The woman from the street. The one who had asked me for directions. She stood at the foot of my bed, perfectly still, staring at me. Her eyes too wide. Her skin cracked like porcelain. Her mouth didn't move, but I could hear her voice. You drank it, she whispered. You let me in. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. My chest was heavy, frozen, like something was sitting on me. And then I realized she was sitting on me, smiling. I woke up, this time for real, soaked in sweat. My breath was shallow, my face wet with tears. My room smelled sweet and rotten, like incense and spoiled meat. My clothes smelled like her, like something dead. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. I couldn't sleep again after that. I just sat in the dark, shaking, watching the clock crawl toward morning. When the sun came up, I went to visit my mother. I didn't tell her everything. How could I? But she looked at me with quiet fear. She said I looked pale, cold. Are you cursed? She asked. I froze. She told me my father had believed in such things, that some people, rare ones, still practiced black magic. Satanic rites, the kind of rituals that could travel through objects, through food, through drinks, like coffee. I left her place more terrified than I had ever been. She tried to stop me, said she would burn something for protection. But I didn't wait, because as I stepped outside, I saw her again, across the street, watching me. She smiled, then disappeared behind a passing bus. I ran home, locked the door, but it's too late now. She's with me, in the walls, in the mirrors, in my dreams. She speaks through the silence. I let something in, and I don't think I can ever get it out. I dreamed about my father. It didn't feel like a memory. It felt like being dragged back into something that was never real. The apartment looked the same, but wrong. The light was too dim, the air too still, like time had frozen. There were no sounds, no street noise, no wind, just the ticking of a clock that I couldn't see. He was there, my father, barefoot in the center of the living room, slowly turning, dancing. But there was no music, just silence so thick it made my ears ring. His body moved like it was being pulled by invisible strings. The carpet was gone, replaced by a chalk-drawn symbol on the floor. A giant star, too many points, circles surrounding it. It looked satanic, ancient, wrong. He turned again, his arms limp, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. When he smiled, it stretched beyond his cheeks. A smile that didn't belong on any human face. The walls pulsed, the lights flickered. I tried to speak, but my mouth wouldn't open. Then the room changed. The furniture disappeared. The floor turned black, sticky. I heard something wet dragging against the wood. When I turned my head, I saw my mother lying on the ground. Her limbs twisted the wrong way, face pale and frozen in horror. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing, and her chest barely moved. Blood leaked from her mouth like melted wax. Beside her, my younger brother, limp, blue, dead. I screamed, but nothing came out. My voice was trapped. Then, from the corner of the room, she appeared. The woman, the one from the alley. She stepped forward slowly, her feet not quite touching the ground. Her skin looked like cracked porcelain, leaking something black from the breaks. Her long black hair hung like wet threads. Her eyes were glowing faintly red, but dead. Her smile, like my father's, too wide, too sharp. She raised one hand and pointed at him. My father stopped dancing. He turned, faced her, and bowed. He dropped to his knees and began whispering something in a language I didn't understand. His hands dug into the chalk lines. Blood poured from his fingernails. Then she looked at me. She didn't speak, but I heard it. "You let me in." The walls pulsed again. The symbols on the floor caught fire. My mother's body twitched. My brother opened his mouth and began screaming without sound. Their eyes locked on mine, and my father laughed. It was the worst sound I've ever heard. Deep, gurgling like something choking on bones. I woke up gasping. My bed was soaked in sweat. My hands were freezing. The smell in my room was like burnt incense and spoiled meat. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. But even after that, the whisper remained. "You let me in." I didn't sleep again. I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. Something had followed me from that coffee shop. Something evil. Something ancient. And I needed answers. I had to talk to someone. So the next day, I reached out to my friend. I couldn't take it anymore. After that dream, I needed to speak to someone. Someone real. I messaged my best friend and begged her to meet me. She didn't ask questions. Just said, "Starbucks. 5 p.m. The moment I walked in, I felt it again. That smell. Rotten sweetness. Like something decayed beneath the perfume of sugar and espresso. I pushed through it, sat down, and tried to act normal. My friend looked at me with real concern. "Mei-Shan," she said softly. "You look like you haven't slept in days." "I haven't," I whispered. "Something is wrong." She leaned forward. "Tell me everything." And I did. I told her about the woman from the alley, the cursed coffee, the way the office vanished, the blank clinic door, the whispers, the dream about my father, the dance, the symbols, the blood, my mother and brother, all of it. She didn't laugh. She didn't roll her eyes. Instead, she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and made a call. "We're going to see someone," she said. "Now." We left our drinks untouched. I don't even remember walking there. Just the sound of my heartbeat and that sickly scent still clinging to my clothes. We arrived at a dark apartment on the edge of town. No lights outside. Just a metal door with strange symbols scratched into the frame. My friend knocked 3 times in a rhythm I didn't recognize. The door creaked open on its own. Inside was a single room lit by dozens of red candles. The walls were covered in fabric charms, dried herbs, and animal bones. It smelled of ash, dust, and something ancient. An old woman sat at the center of the room. Hair like white smoke, eyes like cracked glass. She didn't speak, just motioned for us to sit. My friend spoke for me. This is Mei-Shan. She's been cursed. The old woman nodded slowly, then turned to me. Her voice was dry and sharp, like wind through broken wood. Tell me what happened, every detail. I told her. I left nothing out. When I finished, the old woman stared at me for a long time. Then she said the words I wasn't prepared for. That wasn't your father. The one in your dream. It wasn't him. I froze. That was something wearing his shape. Something old. Something that should not be named. The markings on the floor, those were summoning seals. Your dream wasn't just a dream. You were shown what's coming. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But I sat still, frozen by her voice. She stood, walked to a dark corner, and returned with something in her hand. A necklace. A small, black jade pendant carved with symbols I couldn't read. The chain was old, rusted in places. Wear this, she said. Never take it off. Not even to sleep. Not even to shower. What is it? I asked. A seal. A boundary. It won't remove the curse, but it will contain it. Protect you, your brother, your mother. For now. She leaned closer. But you must never go back to that Starbucks. Never sit in that chair again. The curse began there. It lives there. The one who gave it to you hates you. Wants you to suffer. My lips trembled. Who would do that to me? The old woman shook her head. You may never know, but you were chosen. Marked. Something was given to you that day, not just a drink. A vessel. Then she whispered something I will never forget. This curse doesn't want to kill you, Mei-Shan. It wants to change you. It wants to become you. My vision blurred. My hands were shaking. I felt something moving under my skin, just for a second, like a pulse that wasn't mine. The old woman touched my shoulder. Go home, rest, but don't trust your dreams. And don't let her speak to you again. I asked, what happens if I do? Her face darkened. Then she will no longer need to pretend to be someone else. We left in silence. Outside, the air was heavier. The sky looked wrong. My friend held my hand the whole way home, but even she couldn't stop the cold I felt crawling inside my bones. When I reached my apartment, I found something waiting at the door. A small package. No name, no address, just a single note taped to the top. You let me in. I didn't open it. I burned it. But even now, I can still smell it. That coffee, that rot, and something inside me knows this is only the beginning. Started with a phone call. My phone rang just before sunset. I hadn't spoken to anyone all day. I was afraid to. I'd spent hours staring at the floor, thinking about the dream, the ritual, the symbols, my father dancing like a puppet while my mother bled onto the floor. The whisper, you let me in. When I saw my best friend's name on the screen, I picked up instantly. Her voice was soft, familiar, comforting. Mei-Shan, she said, are you okay? I didn't know how to answer. I just asked, can I come over? But she interrupted me first. I was going to ask you the same. Come to my place. We'll talk. You need rest. I'll make you coffee. I felt a strange chill. Her voice sounded normal, but maybe too normal, like it was trying too hard to be gentle. Still, I needed comfort. I needed someone. I got dressed and left. The sun was gone by the time I reached her apartment. I knocked, and she opened the door immediately. Her face lit up like she'd been waiting for me. She pulled me inside without a word and guided me to the living room. I made your favorite, she smiled, handing me a cup of coffee. Vanilla blend. It smelled strong. Too strong. I took it anyway. We sat together. The room was dim. Her lights flickered occasionally. She talked to me like everything was fine, like nothing was wrong in the world. But then, I noticed her eyes. They didn't blink. Not once. I tried not to stare, but her face wasn't quite right. Her voice was the same, but her skin looked pale, like porcelain stretched over bone. I blinked, and it was her again. Normal. Talking. Smiling. I shook my head. Did you call me today? I asked slowly. She tilted her head. Of course. I invited you, didn't I? My stomach turned. Something tasted wrong. The coffee. My throat burned slightly, like it had been laced with something bitter. I looked down at the cup, and for a second, I saw something floating in it. A thin, black thread, like hair. I blinked and it was gone. You're tired, she said. Just close your eyes. Just rest. My limbs felt heavy. I looked at her again, and her smile was too wide. Her teeth were too many. Her voice came again, but it echoed, like it was bouncing inside a cave. Let me in. I dropped the cup. It shattered on the floor. She didn't move. I stood up, but the room tilted. The walls began to bend, melt. Her face shifted, cracked like broken glass. Beneath her skin was something moving. Black veins. Eyes that didn't belong. Fingers twitching unnaturally. I turned to run, but my body didn't move. Everything went black. I woke up in a hospital bed. White walls. Beeping machines. I was hooked to something. My chest hurt. A nurse leaned over me, her expression unreadable. You passed out at a friend's apartment, she said. She called emergency services. You weren't breathing. I blinked. My friend. Yes. She said she found you unconscious on her couch. She showed me my phone and the number that made the call. But it wasn't my friend's. It was unknown. I was released later that evening. When I got home, I called my real friend. Her voice trembled when she picked up. Mei-Shan, she said. Where have you been? I've been calling you all day. I froze. You didn't call me yesterday? No. I haven't seen you in a week. I dropped the phone. My body went cold. My head spun. Then a notification buzzed. A photo. It was from an unknown number. In the picture, I was sitting in her apartment, alone, staring into nothing. Behind me, in the window, was a reflection. Not mine. It was her. The woman from the alley. From the dream. From the symbols. Her cracked face, red eyes, long black fingers. Smiling. And below the photo, a message. You came on your own. I only asked once. I turned on every light, but the shadows in my apartment were wrong. They moved when I wasn't looking. My mirror cracked on its own that night, and when I woke the next morning, a fresh cup of coffee was waiting on my table. Black, still warm. No one else had a key. And my necklace, the one the old woman gave me, was hanging from the doorknob, like it had been returned, like it had been borrowed. I'm scared to sleep now, because I know when I close my eyes, she'll be waiting again. And next time, she won't wait for me to answer the phone. So, this is my story. I never believed in curses. I thought black magic and Satanism were just stories, urban legends whispered in dark corners of the internet. But I was wrong. Something entered my life the day I drank that coffee. Something ancient and evil. I don't know who did it. I don't know why. But I know this. Once it touches you, it never really lets go. I hear the whispers at night. I smell the incense even when no candles are burning. My father's face still shows up in my dreams, but I know now that it's not him. I was warned not to return to that place. But the truth is, it doesn't matter where I go. The curse doesn't live in the coffee. It lives in me now. If you're watching this, maybe it's too late. Maybe you've already let something in. I don't know what to do anymore, but I will come back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I will come back. And when I do, I'll either find the truth, or I'll bring the curse with me.